Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 476 this week. My name is David from the United States, and I'm going to mess up the intro by introducing my co-host, Dave Roberts from the UK. What's up, Dave?
Now 10% more expensive. Hello, everybody.
Look, you guys requested it, and we've honored it. Andy is off the show. This is an Underworld-only podcast now. We weren't fucking around. It sounded like a bit. It sounded like a gag. But you're never going to hear from Andy again, longtime listeners. He is gone, and we are only talking about shitty vampire, werewolf, Lycan films from now on. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome to the Underworld cast. That's what it is. If you're a longtime listener of the show, Andy's out this week. I'll just throw away the gag now.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
you don't have to stop listening.
I don't want anybody to actually worry.
Yeah.
Both for the sake of the quality of the show for these movies, and also for Andy, who we love and miss dearly. But yeah, we'll be back next week with a normal episode. Normally dude, I'm going to be honest with you. When Andy was like, I'm out this week, you guys can continue the Underworld thing, there was part of me that was like, do we have, must we? I was like, that last one fucking drained me, dude. And I was like, I don't know that I can watch another Underworld movie immediately.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it. It'll be okay. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the podcast. Normally, we're a horror podcast that discusses a wide variety of diverse topics within the horror world. But for the past couple weeks, I guess counting this week, we are talking about Underworld movies. This week, Underworld Rise of the Lycans, the 2009 prequel, that the last time I had seen before last night was in the theater when it came out. So it was, and funnily enough, the person sitting next to me last night that I watched it with was the person sitting next to me in the theater 16 years ago or whenever it was. So 16 years ago? 15 years ago. I don't remember. And I can't do basic math. I was telling somebody the other day, I respect math. I'm so happy that we have people that are good at it. I think it's fine that I can accept I'm not somebody they're going to need ever for math, and that's okay. So I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Yeah, I'll get into something later, which is tangentially related to mathematics. And,
all right, perfect.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, brother.
Yeah, it's we've got people for that, and it's great. I respect them and appreciate them. If you need facts on Underworld lore, I can help more with that than I can just a basic subtraction. I can't even say subtraction correctly. What else? We're on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Mostly Instagram. Go follow us on there. You can also subscribe various ways. It's the internet. It's 2026. You've figured it out thus far. Just keep doing that. If you want to send us some longer form thoughts, feel free to do so. EerieInternational@gmail.com. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's get into what we've gotten into in the past week. Dave, I'm going to throw the ball to you this time and have you kick us off.
Nice.
What have you been dabbling in?
Okay, well, let's get to the thing that I already mentioned so that people can stop wondering. I picked up a set of darts for the first time in ages about a week ago. And
you're saying darts like dartboard?
Darts is in dartboard, yeah. 501, nice. 301 cricket, yeah. And I suck, dude. I suck so fucking bad. But I got really into it. Like, I was watching some videos that got randomly suggested on YouTube, and that was made me kind of think, hang on a second, I've got a dartboard, I've got darts, I'm going to be a world champion by the time I'm 45. And as we all do, because darts is a deceptively simple looking game. Mm-hmm. And it's really not, but I've been buying stems and flights and watching videos on grips and throws. And
let me interrupt you just to guess. So I don't know dart terms. So are stems and flights, is that the two parts that make up a dart? Are the flights like the back feathery part?
Yes, you have three I mean, in modern darts, you have 4 parts because the actual tip is separate from the barrel. But older darts would have the barrel.
I'm going to restrain myself. There's just too many phallic. Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
Just the tip.
The tip and the barrel, and already my mind was like 16 different jokes. Which one are you going to pick?
So yeah, you've got the tip and the barrel, which in cheaper darts there's an integral thing, but in more expensive darts you can actually take out the tips and replace them with longer or shorter ones.
Okay.
And so that colloquially is referred to as the barrel. And then you've got the stem, which is the plastic bit or the aluminium bit, if you're being really posh, that screws into the back. And then the flight is the bit that it's like a 4-way thing that slots in
4 ways.
I know, right? I'm terrible.
The hottest discussion we've had in
Jesus
months
Christ,
on the show.
We're channeling our inner Laura Baileys. That's a joke that only I will get because I'm the only one that listens to Critical Role. But yeah, so it's it all comes together to make up a dart. But I didn't realise how just complicated it was because you've got.
I didn't either.
Depending on your throw, you can have like a front-weighted dart or a back-weighted dart. You can have a short stem or a long stem, which affects the way it arcs through the air, depending on whether you throw with power or whether you have more of a looping throw. I don't know what kind of throw I've got yet, but it looks like I've got a looping throw.
Man, I have more questions already, Dave.
I know. Go.
Bear with me.
Go. I'm happy to answer them with absolutely no knowledge of the subject whatsoever.
So when it comes to, I imagine you're in a pub, as you would say, across the pond, and having a friendly game with some pals. I would imagine there it's not as big of a deal. But in the competitive world, are all of these things locked in in terms of you can only use certain types of stems, flight, etc., or is it still modular depending on your technique?
It's fairly modular.
That's crazy.
There are some things I remember way back when I was last big into darts and I was buying all kinds of different things. I bought stems which were basically springs, so the darts wouldn't get in the way of each other. You wouldn't get bounce outs or deflections and things like that. I think that technically is illegal in competitive darts, but you can get dart shafts and flights that rotate to prevent as many bounce outs and deflections. But I think that as far as materials, lengths, things like that are concerned, pretty much anything goes as long as it's not some kind of AI controlled, ballistic missile from the US military, which you've got on loan.
Right.
Yeah, it's whatever suits. And a lot of professionals have got very, very long points on their darts, so it allows better access to the trebles and the ball for further shots. And then you had old timers like Phil Taylor. I nearly forgot his name. I'm doing well today. I've remembered one names that I've tried to remember.
You're doing great, man. You also could be making up all this shit and I wouldn't know. So,
but someone would. Someone would know I was making this shit up. He throws very fat barrel darts, whereas a lot of the professionals now use slimmer barrels because it gives you more room in the treble. It's all very complicated, and you've got pulling throws, you've got pushing throws. It's absolutely mad. I didn't realize there was that much involved, and honestly, the amount of videos I've watched has probably made me a worse player because now I'm second guessing everything. But my maths is terrible, so I was going to say my reverse addition, which is actually just subtraction. So let's use the proper word, shall we? My subtraction is fucking awful. To the point that I actually downloaded a dart scorer just for ease of use, and also because I wanted to use a lot of these dart scorers have got you versus a bot features, so you can place match play style darts even if you're just by yourself. And that's been really handy because I've actually kind of had a few games and managed to kind of beat the AI or whatever it is a few times and got some outshots on the doubles, which is the colourful ring on the very outside of the dartboard. For those that aren't at all interested or knowledgeable about the game, which I imagine most of our listeners are neither interested or particularly bothered about the rules of the game. So I'm going to cut it fairly short there.
I'll tell you what, man. I know the basic shit about dart scoring because, and this will not come as a surprise, and I'm sure you've dabbled in this as well, a pretty prevalent source of mini games within video games is darts. And there have been a couple games where I've gotten sucked into it in a huge way. Grand Theft Auto 4 was probably the first one where I was like, oh, I'm just fucking playing darts all the time. And like, there's missions to do. But
hey, cousin, you want to go play darts with me?
Yes. But I will never turn down a call from Nico's cousin.
Roman, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Bellic, to go play some darts. The one that I probably played the most, though, was Persona 5 Royal. There's a dart mini game in that one that is especially nice because as you increase your dart playing skills with each member of your party, it unlocks shit in the game, like in the turn-based battle system, where you can. Nice. It's not like dart related stuff, but it increases. I forget what they are. They're like some kind of synergistic, attacks or whatever. So it had a reason for me to be doing it, but then I just got to the point where I maxed out everybody and I was still playing fucking darts. Like I was just into it. Oh, yeah. So obviously with the mini games and video games, they help you out a little bit in terms of saying like, doing the math for you to where it's like, oh, you need this many points. That means you got to hit it in this. Some of them are triple, right? Like the little
the
sections or whatever.
The smaller colorful ring kind of halfway between the edge of the board and the center of the board. They're the trebles. And then you've got a red bullseye, which is worth 50. Which is the double bull, and a green bullseye, which goes just around it, and that's worth 25.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So it helps you with that, with highlighting, but also you get to the point where you're just like, I'm just basically playing darts. I mean, not basically, you're still holding a controller. And and even with, I think Persona 5 even had it to the point where it was like, I played it on PS5 and it had the DualSense like motion control, so it was even a little bit more easier to be very precise with it and stuff. But it's even the virtual version is pretty fun. And anytime I've played in real life, I've quickly realized not the same as holding a controller, and I'm in fact
absolutely
dog shit at this.
Yeah, but it's a fun hobby, and it's relatively inexpensive for people that are starting out. You can pick up a set of a board and two sets of darts for like 40-50 quid, I think, which for the amount of hours that you can spend on it and the amount of that you can improve and see improvement in your game, I'd say it's one of the most cost-effective entry-level sports because you can play by yourself, you can play round the clock, you can play cricket, you can play all these different games, which I never knew how to play. Round the clock is a game style. I thought you just meant a lot. Yeah, I mean you can play a lot as well, but it's going to ruin your arm, But yeah, it's just exposed me as the terrible mathematician that I am. So, I mean, Stephen Hawking, great mathematician, probably not a great darts player. In fact, probably I can say 100% not a good darts player.
Probably not.
I'm going to hell.
I don't know for sure, but probably not.
I'm going to hell. So yeah, anyway, so darts, that was something that took up some of my time this week, but I've been trying to limit it to an hour or so a day just so that I don't overdo it. What I've not been limiting to an hour a day has been my critical role intake. There we go, intake. Yeah, there's the word I was looking for. Thank you, David.
Sure.
I finally finished season 3 or campaign 3 of Critical Role. Okay, technically not quite finished it because they're doing all of the kind of the vignette endings where they explain where their characters are going to be in like 5-10 years or whatever. But the actual role play game rolling dice part of it is over, and they had their big fight with Prodaphos, the God Eater, and that came to an end. I'm not going to say how it ended because there may be people out there like me who were super late to the Critical Role party and are still trying to catch up. But I would definitely recommend that people give it a go. I said earlier this year, or last year, sorry now, I was having trouble with season 3 connecting with it. I have to say that the more I watched of it, the more I listened of it, the more into it I got. So I think it was just because I was such a fan of the second campaign and the Mighty Nine that I was kind of like, oh man, I wish it was those characters again.
Right. But is that the one that they just started a new animated series with?
On Amazon Prime, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jester, Ford, all of those characters. Jester's she's best girl. I think most people who like Critical Role are kind of, Jester is like a top 3 character for most people. I won't say all of them.
Laura Bailey,
who has got a fascination with just making the smuttiest jokes, which is what I alluded to earlier when I said our inner Laura Baileys. But onto actual horror stuff this week. Although Critical Role definitely skirted into the horror realm with the whole Ruidus, the Red Moon, alien races, god horror. Like there was some proper stuff going on there. Titans there were and everything. It was great. I watched Priest from 2011.
Oh boy!
And
this is the era of movies we're dipping into this week, huh? This 2009 to 2011, action horror dip. I don't know. I've never seen Priest. I would imagine it's probably better than the movie we watched, but. Okay.
I would say it's got a better budget, possibly.
Sure.
Actually, it probably didn't. It probably just used it better. It's a cool idea. It's a real... I put it this way. I think the elevator pitch for this movie was, what if we made Judge Dredd but vampires? And that's where this movie up.
Is this the one with Paul Bettany?
It is the one with Paul Bettany. It also stars Carl Urban. Maggie Q is in this, as well as Stephen Moyer, because apparently
from fucking True Blood. Right?
Yeah. Apparently he just got typecast as a vampire, and that was it. Fun fact: Stephen Moyer went to school in the town that I live in, Brentwood.
Nice.
He's a local boy, so I've always kind of had an eye on his career. Christopher Plummer is also in this movie.
I know Doug Jones is in it.
I
remember him in the trailer. He's like an ice cream man or something, delivery guy. I don't remember. Milkman. He has a little hat.
Oh, that might not be the same film. I thought he might have been playing the some of the vampires or something, because there were some. Maybe they weren't. Maybe he wasn't a vampire. He's not listed on here.
Now I'm still confused. We're not talking about the same movie. We're not.
No, we're not. But it is a Paul Bettany movie. So was
he in two movies? Okay, the movie I'm thinking of might be called Legion. Now that I think of it.
Oh, the one where he's a fallen angel. Yes.
Yeah. Is that also Paul Bettany?
That's Paul Bettany as well.
What the fuck was this guy doing? These movies.
I don't know.
Because as you were saying this, dude, Legion came out in 2010. This was the same era too.
Yeah.
When you said Carl Urban, I was like, I don't remember Carl Urban being in this.
No.
Totally different movie. But also weirdly action horror religious.
Yeah.
That's
he
crazy.
Carved out a niche for himself for a couple of years there. So the basic concept of Priest is that man and vampire have been fighting each other since the beginning of time. So it's kind of like a...
I remember this now. This is based off a comic or something.
It is based on a comic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of this until it said in the end credits based on a comic by, and I was like, oh, really? Okay, I guess I'm not what we're going to be reading that comic then. Yeah, it's fine. Don't let me put people off of this, although maybe they should be. I don't know. The concept is basically... Yes, so the man and vampire in a parallel timeline have been fighting each other since the dawn of time. And there are little animated clips, if I remember correctly, of how the battle has kind of raged on through time. And they've got First World War looking era stuff going on, the medieval stuff. And then you come up to the present day, which is very Mega City 1, Judge Dredd. Mm-hmm. Walled cities, but also very dark, like Blade Runner so everything is very kind of grimy and dirty, and everybody seems to be living below the poverty line. Everybody is miserable. It's raining all the time. There's no daylight. It's got an interesting look, but it's absolutely obvious that it's aping not only the comic books that it comes from, I would guess, but also either the film has taken or the comic books before it have taken a lot of inspiration from the things that I've already name-checked, Judge Dredd and Blade Runner. Paul Bettany is a priest, which is essentially a heightened human being that was either created or discovered that turned the tide of war, basically human plus. They're the only ones that are able to stand up to vampires and kill them. Now, in this universe, vampires are like feral creatures. They're not like Count Dracula, the type of vampire, or the underworld type of vampires that we see in modern vampire movies. They're very much seen almost more as the Lycans from the movie that we're talking about this week, where they're just like wild beasts without the human intellect to make them even more dangerous.
Right.
But then it tells a story of how, like, well, the priests won the war against the vampires, and now vampires live on reservations, and the priests are basically kind of like Vietnam War vets, like people live among people in the cities, but everybody kind of skirts around them and leaves them alone, and they're not allowed to continue the fight against vampires. And something happens where Paul Bettany basically has to come out of retirement and go against the leaders of the city and go off by himself to try to find a relative who has been kidnapped by vampires. All the while, Carl Urban, who is a ex-priest who was then bitten by a vampire and turned into the first human vampire hybrid, is kind of like fighting against him and the political and religious patriarchy that runs the city-states. It's needlessly political, and I kind of love it for that. But yeah, it's a fun action movie. It's got some really nice set pieces. It's shot fairly well. It doesn't really try to be too clever with the script, which is kind of a shame because Paul Bettany is a really good actor. But given what the film actually has to say, I'm glad that they kept it quite simple. It's kind of got a buddy cop element with a sheriff who comes to the city to let Paul Bettany's character know what's going on and the thing that is the impetus for him to kind of come out of retirement. It's worth a watch if you have free access to it and you wish to spend 87 minutes. It's only 3 minutes of a perfect movie. It's probably worth giving a look if you enjoy this kind of era of sci-fi action movies. It's one of the better looking ones in my mind. But yeah, it's kind of mad that he made basically 2 of these movies back to back.
Dude, what's even more mad, what's even madder is that Scott Stewart directed both movies. So this must have been a synergistic.
Really
they both were like,
Bettany.
we really love this shit. We love these. Because as you've been describing this, I have it pulled up here, and I've been looking and remembering as you've been talking. Like, okay, I remember this Priest movie now. Like, I didn't see it. I remember the comic was I want to say Korean. I think I'll just click
Korean,
on it.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, which I forget how you pronounce it, but is it manhwa or manga? It's like their manga, basically.
Yeah.
And once I clicked on that, I was like, okay, I remember this art style because it had a really stylized look. But then, yeah, I did not remember that Priest and Legion, same director, same star. I also forgot that Legion got a TV series 4 years later that had 2 seasons on the Sci-Fi Channel called Dominion. Yeah, which I remember as I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I do remember this too. I didn't watch any of this stuff, but this was probably like far enough away from Underworld that I was like, I'm not getting sucked into this again. But also now it's far enough that I'm like, I could fuck around with this again. I could watch these 2 movies kind of knowing what they are. But we'll see. I do like Bettany. And there was part of me that always wanted to see Legion at least because it looked like something, and similarly to this, that was just embracing, like they weren't shy about embracing all the like over the top genre-y stuff, and it wasn't trying to be coy or cute about it. It was just like, nah, Judge Dredd vampires, or no, archangels in a diner. Like it was just really going for it. So
yeah. The height of video game adaptation movies as well. I think like Doom was probably around about that kind of era.
Probably a little early. Yeah, no, you're right. It would have been. I think actually Doom came out when I was in high school, so probably a little earlier. Okay. Let's see. I'll look it up as we're talking. But yeah, that vibe. What was the other one? That I never watched this one either. But that 2005 was
Far
Doom.
Cry one that came out at some point.
I want to say that was an Udo Kier movie. That might have been Till Schweiger too. I can't remember. But no, what's the one I'm thinking of that I didn't go see? I, Frankenstein, the Aaron Eckhart. That was another this like blue tinted dark horror action thing.
Yeah, the movie that screamed I saw Van Helsing and now you can too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Van Helsing was the last hurrah for me with these sorts of movies because I remember being psyched about Van Helsing. And I remember even watching it in the theater and really liking it. But I was also 14, 15 at the oldest. So like right around the corner from realizing like, nah, man, these are bad movies. And it had Kate Beckinsale, which at that point obviously I'd seen in Underworld, and so it was, and Universal Monsters too. I don't know. There's part of me that wonders if I could watch Van Helsing now and still kind of get into it.
I mean, you might not have any choice one week.
That's probably true. It's probably an inevitability.
Yeah. Maybe sooner rather than later. Who knows? Because the rate we're going through these Underworld movies, we're going to need something else to talk about.
It's true.
Okay, so Priest, if you've got the time, don't spend the money, but if you have the time, then I would recommend giving it a look. Then I said I would. I followed up on my promise. I watched The Exorcist Believer the whole way through this time, and it didn't massively change my mind, but I did enjoy it more than I enjoyed the first 15, 20 minutes, that's for sure.
Okay.
Like once the actual... once the girls were found, especially, and they didn't waste any time after they were found into getting to the creepy shit.
Are they both possessed in this? You can spoil it. The odds of me watching this ever
it's okay.
are very
it's
low.
Not really a spoiler because the trailer and the poster both feature both girls being possessed. In fact, if I remember the trailer when it came out, because I did see the trailer in passing when it was released back in 2023, I think they made a big thing about the line where they said they're co-possessed or something, and basically they have to be exorcised at the same time. It's not going to work otherwise.
Is it two demons, or is it?
I'm not
one
sure.
Very strong demon.
This is the thing. I'm not 100% sure. I would think it's one demon, and it's the same demon that possessed Linda Blair's character in the original.
Okay.
Because there is a very
I believe
Pazuzu. There is a very definite link between Reagan and these girls. And not just Reagan. Reagan's mum is in this movie. Reagan's mum has got it going on.
It's Ellen Bernstein, I think. Is that who it is?
Yes, it is. Ellen Bernstein, yeah. It's very mean-spirited in places. It still feels to me like it's like TV movie plus. I keep using this term plus to add on to things. What I mean by that is like it doesn't have the sheen of a proper Hollywood movie, and that's a terrible thing to say because what should a Hollywood movie look like? There are so many different ways that movies can look. But if you compare it to the original Exorcist or any of the follow-ups or any of the movies that have possession as a key part of it in the last 20 years, it looks decidedly less filmic.
Yeah. And I know what you mean, man. We've brought this up on the show before where there's this like Netflix level tier now of the way things look, where it doesn't look direct to video like we think of that being in the back of the day, but it doesn't look like a theatrical thing necessarily. Yeah. Like it's in that middle ground. And also,
I'm sure I've said before that I don't have a problem with this, and when it's executed in the right way, I absolutely don't. The movie has no stars in it. And that's not to slag anyone off that is in the lead of this movie, because everyone does a really good job, actually. But it just doesn't... I don't know. You kind of expect a big franchise like The Exorcist to have at least one kind of fairly large name actor in a role that features from the onset of the movie, from the outset of the movie. And it doesn't really have that. It relies on the name of the movie to get people through the door, and then hopes that you're not going to be bored stiff after the first 15 minutes and walk out, so you can get to the good stuff.
Honestly, I'm clicking on one last person here to see, because I don't remember who Jennifer Nettles is. Oh, she's in that band Sugarland. So she's primarily, it looks like, a musician. I was going to say the rest of the cast, the people that I know, are all Broadway people. Like the lead dude, Leslie Odom Jr., I've seen him perform live, weirdly enough. He popped because of Hamilton. He was Aaron Burr. So people know him, but to your point, not as a movie star.
No.
I think he's gone on to be in a bunch of stuff since then. And then the only other name I knew other than... Oh, Ann Dowd's in it. I mean, she's a obviously great supporting actor that's in a lot of stuff.
She's very good in this, yeah.
But again, not like a A-list star, like somebody you recognize, but isn't going to be like a Tom Cruise or somebody. Not that it has to be that. But then Norbert Leo Butz is the only other dude who I know, and he was in Wicked. Like he was another Broadway guy.
Yeah, so. And that explains why like the acting in it is very good. Like I haven't got a problem with any of the performances. Maybe the father of the church-going girl. I mean, this shows how much it had an effect on me. I can't remember any of the characters' names. I think her name was Sarah. One of the girls was called Sarah. So yeah, the acting was all like very good, and I should have recognized Leslie Odom Jr., but he wasn't singing, so why would I?
Sure.
But he was excellent. And I mentioned before that I did like the opening where he and his wife in the movie are in Haiti, and she gets a blessing for the baby, and whether it's voodoo or not, I don't know. I would guess it's meant to be voodoo because Haiti tends to be one of the countries that voodoo is kind of seen to come from. But I don't know enough about the customs of voodoo to know for sure that that's what it actually is. It could just be a abstract Christian variance from the Haitian nation. I don't know, but yeah, I kind of hate the fact that I've said, oh, it hasn't got any stars, because I've said before that like a good enough film doesn't need any stars, and I do stand by that. But
yeah, no, I don't think you were talking shit.
It just feels in this sense that they're just like, well, we've got the name The Exorcist, so we don't need to get anyone else in. And do you know what? Actually, like that's probably the right way to go about it. It's just that coupled with the look of the movie, like the cinematography of the movie, makes it feel like it's second rate, and it probably deserves better for what it delivers in the second half of the movie, because the second half of the movie stacks up. It's actually very good. It's very well done. It's just the first half is such a plod. And as I said last week, it's a movie called The Exorcist. You know what the movie's going to be about. You don't need to have this slow plodding build up to it. Just get us to the shit where they're spitting bloody split pea soup over everybody, please.
Right.
But they do some really interesting stuff with this one, where they have a mixture of faiths that are involved in the exorcism. It's not just the Catholic faith. There's voodoo mixed in with Pentecostal church, with Catholic church. It's they kind of go through the idea that Reagan's mother, who was a film star in the first movie, kind of stepped away from making films and became an expert in possession and exorcism rites, but not an expert in the sense that she was able to carry them out. She was just an expert in how they differ all around the world. She studied how every culture has an exorcism rite, and she kind of becomes this nexus character for what works. What is the thing that unites all of these different exorcism rites? And it tends to be the people. And that they mention certain rules, and then somebody stupidly breaks the rules, and it just kind of all goes kind of like a bit haywire there. It's got a bittersweet ending. I'm not entirely sure how they were going to spin this out into a trilogy. It would have been interesting to find out, and maybe there is material out there from the likes of Danny McBride. Yes, that one. Not the one from the movie that we're talking about this week. That's Danny McBride. No, not that one.
Right.
The one of the writers of this movie, one of the story by credits, is for Daniel Richard McBride, American actor, known for unique acting accolades. basically, was it Eastbound and Down? I can't remember the
Eastbound
and Down. Yeah, I didn't watch
Vice
it.
Principals, Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, the comedy
which
dude.
is a lot of those projects were partially directed by David Gordon Green, who made this movie, this Exorcist film, and the Halloween movies, which Danny McBride also co-wrote on. So it comes from comedy first, I think, but Danny McBride's just a big horror fan. He was an Alien Covenant as well. Oven Cant, whatever we called it.
Yep.
But yeah, I was telling my friend last night, we were watching Underworld, Rise of the Lycans, that I was like, yeah, it's co-written by Danny McBride, and had the same whole spiel. He was like, seriously? I was like, not that one.
Not that one.
But that dude came along first, so he had the Danny McBride dibs on crediting, and then he had to change. I don't know if he had to, but I'm sure he,
if you're the established one with that name and then someone else turns up, I guess it's different when one of you is a stunt guy and the other guy is an actual actor. Because I know there's a rule in Hollywood where some actors had to change their names because you're not allowed to have the same name as an existing member of the union. So I think, was it Kevin Costner that had to change his name or someone like that?
There's a few. I want to say Emma Stone's one of those two. I don't think her first name's Emma. And it was a similar thing.
Is her name Sharon?
Her name was Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was now. But that's also, not that I'm comparing myself to movie stars, but that's also why I have a pseudonym, and it's not even a pseudonym, but like a different credited name in comics, because when I first started lettering, there was a David Hopkins who was a writer in comics.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'd met him before, super nice guy. Like to this day, we still will like send each other, like write on each other's like social media, like happy birthday Earth 2 David or whatever. Like we have like a little joke going. But so I started going by David C. Hopkins, my middle initial. And the more I would letter like title and credit blocks, I was like, this fucking name is the longest name out of all. Like it's so annoying to fit in David C. Hopkins. So I shortened it to DC Hopkins, which to this day is like, if I go to conventions, 75% of the people I'm interacting with are calling me DC because they just know me as that name, and I answer to it, and it's not weird anymore. But then that motherfucker, David Hopkins, the other one, who I say with kindness and affection, he stopped writing comics almost immediately. And so I could have kept it, but I'm now locked in.
I mean, so. I stand by the fact that you should have gone with the pseudonym Chopkins and just be done with it.
Chop, yeah. I answer to that too. There's more than a few people that call me that.
He does. I can vouch for that. So yeah, I think that the takeaway from this one is better than the first 15 minutes would lead you to believe, and follow up on watching this shit. Don't judge things by the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You have to, if you're going to put your opinion on a movie out there, then ultimately I think you probably do need to at some point watch the whole thing. I stand by the fact that I talked about it last week after having only watched the first 15-20 minutes, and I was like, it's not good. Because
it also belongs to that fun pantheon of films that have 1 to 2 installments, and clearly we're supposed to have more, and they abandoned it midway through. Yeah. So it was supposed to be a new trilogy, like the Halloween trilogy that they did, and then had such a lukewarm response that they just kind of walked away from it, and now Mike Flanagan's making a new one.
Yeah. Hang on, we got Mike Flanagan. Hold everything. So yeah, I think that you can kind of make critical points about a movie without having finished it, but if you're going to give a yay or nay to a movie, you probably do need to finish the whole thing to have a round view of it. I certainly am glad that I watched it, because although it's not a movie that I'm going to watch again, it's definitely a much better crafted movie and much better acted than the first 15 minutes would have led me to believe. Not that there are bad performances in the first 15 minutes. It's just they really ramp that shit up in the rest of the movie. Yeah. So then I needed a palate cleanser, and this isn't horror, and I apologize for that, but come on, Andy's not here, so you knew it was going to happen. I was on Netflix because, of course, that's where The Exorcist is on, and I was just clicking through stuff, and I saw a movie, and I was like, I fucking love this movie. This gives me all of the feels and the fuzzies, and I absolutely love this movie. It's from 2004. It's from Steven Spielberg. It stars Tom Hanks. It's The Terminal.
under appreciated dark horse Spielberg movie. I haven't seen this movie since. Oh shit! It's been probably 15 plus years. But back in the day, I loved it. I thought it was. I used to watch it a lot on DVD.
It's just so heartwarming. Like especially when you know where it's going and how all of the characters in the airport end up interacting with him. That even if you're coming to it brand new, as I once did, back when I first watched this movie, and like they have those bits where the security guys are all watching the security feed, and Tucci comes in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "He figured out the quarters." It's brilliant, and like showing him as being like the hard worker, the grafter he is, like learning English by taking two identical guidebooks, one in his native tongue and one in English, and cross-referencing, and it dates itself because it's got like references to Friends and things like that in it, but still, like, it's just such a lovely feel-good movie. It's got a bit of Cyrano de Bergerac in there with the romance between the guy that delivers the airline meals and security officer. Oh God, what's her name? I can't remember her name. It's fine. She deserves better. But
is it Zoe Saldana?
Is Zoe Saldana? Who is she playing? Dolores. It was Dolores.
Oh, her character name. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's like a Cyrano de Bergerac thing going on with that. A little bit unbelievable in how it kind of that particular story thread ends. Here's a person that I've never physically met in my life, and he's going to propose on the first date, and I'm going to say yes. Like, okay. I mean, it's a feel-good movie, so I'm going to swallow it, but because I want it to work, I want it to happen. But come on, guys, really. Just the way that Tom Hanks, like, I've said this before and I will continue to say it, even the movies that he's been in, which haven't been that great, I've never seen a bad performance from the dude. And he elevates anything that he's in. So as Victor, he's just this wonderful, lovable, likable character who he could take the opportunity that Tucci gives him at the beginning of the movie to just walk out of the airport and do what he needs to do, and then be caught by immigration, put on a plane, and except he wouldn't be. He'd be put in detention because they don't recognise Kragosia until everything's sorted out there. But he doesn't. He plays it by the book, partly because he figures out what's going on. It's like, wait, there's a camera watching me. Tucci is great. Catherine Zeta-Jones, I was watching this with my mum and she was like, "That's not Catherine Zeta-Jones, is it?" And I was like, "Yes, it is. It's a very young Zeta-Jones." Yeah. But like, she's great in it. And then you've got supporting characters like Gupta, played by Kumar Palana, who is just an absolute joy. Like, this crotchety old man who his only joy in life is watching people slipping on a wet floor, even though there are signs down. Then there's Diego Luna, who plays Enrique. He's the guy that romances Zoe Saldana. And you've got Chi McBride, who plays a baggage handler in the movie, and they're kind of like the trinity of characters that take Victor under their wing and kind of end up being his like closest confidants. Stanley Tucci is an absolute arsehole in this movie, but it comes from a very relatable place. There are one or two moments where he pushes it a little bit too far, and you're like, okay, like, I don't like you very much. But he starts out really reasonable, but then obviously the pursuit of power gets to his head, and just the way the system works and everything. There's a great scene which is resolved with a guy telling customs that he's got medication for a goat, which is just so wonderfully done and heartwarming. And like, the performance from the guy that plays this dude who's literally in it for like 5 minutes is just absolutely superb. And there's a great joke when spoilers for anyone that hasn't watched The Terminal. Please do go and watch The Terminal if you haven't already. Victor finally is released to go home, and he decides he's going to go to New York City because that was the whole point of him staying around as long as he did. He gets in a cab and he's met by a cab driver who recognizes his accent, and he says, "I'm from Albania." And Victor says, "Oh, you're from Albania. How long have you been here?" And the guy stops for a second, thinks, and he says, "Thursday," and then drives off. And it's such a wonderful little joke. It's the sort of joke that Spielberg seems to be able to deliver with such great aplomb. It's really well directed. There is a crane shot, which in an age before drones, I have no clue how they managed this shot. It's at the very beginning of the movie. Victor is in the middle of the international departure lounge, and he's lost all hope. He can't speak the language. He's lost all of his meal tickets. He's basically just a man on an island, and in a sea of people. And the camera is tight on him, and it pulls out, and it keeps pulling out. And just when you think it's finished pulling out, it keeps pulling out even further. And I genuinely have no fucking clue how they did it. Maybe they CG'd it. Maybe it was a bunch of comp shots that they put through together. I need to look it up to find out how they did it, because genuinely, like, if that is a in-camera physical one shot, holy shit, like, that must be a big motherfucker of a crane that they were using for that. It's just such a wonderfully made film, and it's a huge go-to security blanket, feel-good movie. Genuinely, like, there are one or two people that are bastards in it, but generally, apart from Tucci's character, every other single person in that movie just makes you feel a little bit happier and a little bit more positive about the world you live in. So yeah, it's a great film. I recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it, and anyone that has seen it, go and watch it again. You deserve it.
That would be me, because I would like, especially hearing you talk about it. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but it was one I really liked. I remember when it came out, it was one that everybody was like, it's not one of Spielberg's best, but Hanks is so good that you kind of just go along for the ride and have fun. It was kind of thought about that way, but it's always felt like one that will probably, I'm guessing, age fairly well, because it's with a Spielberg. I mean, there's so much that you're hanging on a Spielberg movie coming out in terms of expectations, even if it's not like a massive blockbuster, but just in terms of, he's the kind of like Einstein in the sense that like the name has pervaded pop culture. So if someone's like, "Nice job, Einstein," like most people probably can't tell you a ton about Albert Einstein, but we all like, that's the shorthand for, and it's the same way with Spielberg. Like he's the name with movies. So for it to be this movie about a dude that's stuck in an airport, it feels very, and it is small in comparison, but I was always charmed by it too. I should rewatch it.
It's a great film. And I think that's it. Let's just have a quick look. I've got it all written down because that's how I don't forget things. Yep, that's everything this week. So, okay. David, over to you, my friend.
Just a couple quick things. I have been reading, I'm like 100-ish pages into a Stephen King novel. This is technically a crime novel. It's one of the 3 books he did for Hard Case Crime. But I would call it a horror crime book. It's Later is the name of it. And I really like it a lot so far. I hadn't read a Stephen King book in a bit. I don't think. I say that, and I'm going to immediately remember that I'm lying. I think it's been a bit. But my best friend Brandy was visiting and over Christmas, and she lives, I won't say where she lives just out of respect for her privacy, but she doesn't live close by Indiana anymore, so I get to see her like once or twice a year now. And we were just talking, we were just hanging out, wrapping Christmas presents, and she pulled up the first episode of Welcome to Derry, the It show. And she had already watched it, and no pun intended, and was showing me the first episode. And she originally pulled it up just to show me the theme, like the opening intro. And it's hilariously not in the first episode. So I never saw the theme until later when I looked it up myself. But that was when I found out she has read almost every Stephen King book. So back in the day when she still lived here in Indiana, she and I were friends in high school. Lost touch after high school, reconnected later on. And by that point, she was had become a personal trainer and super into exercise stuff and all that. So I was trying to lose weight. I was reconnecting with my friend. And so she was my trainer for a long time. And so I remember even back then, you know, we'd be talking about anything and everything. And we both have the exact same sort of personality in so many ways, including being able to talk and go off on tangents. Sometimes it can become a real problem with us because we'll have to work backwards off of like 8 tangents that we've spun off to remember what we were originally talking about.
I can't relate to that at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So the energy is matched very instantaneously with her. So, but one of the things we would talk about back then is she was going through and trying to listen to or read Stephen King books. And I didn't realize that she hadn't stopped doing that over the years. I figured it was not a phase, but just like there's just so many of them. And when we were reconnecting this past time, she was like, I'm getting worried because I'm running out of Stephen King books. Like I'm at the point now where, and I've re-listened to or reread a lot of them. She's read it like 2 or 3 times. She's read the entire Dark Tower series twice, I think, maybe more. I can't remember now. And she's like, I gotta start getting used to and accepting that there are other authors I'm gonna have to start reading. I've just been in King world for so long. So anyway, that got us talking about all of those books and everything else. And then I bought her one of the other authors that she likes that we've connected on in the past has been Chuck Palahniuk. And so I had bought her one of his newer books as a Christmas gift. And so she was reading that on the plane flying back home, and we were sending each other voice messages back and forth talking about it. And I think she introduced the idea, but she's like, we should do like a little book club, like the two of us, and read Stephen King stuff that I'm finishing up or ones that you've never read that I want to reread or blah, blah, blah. So we settled on Later, which I had owned his 3 hard case crime books for a bit. But had never started any of them. Imagine that. And it's great, man. I like it a lot. It's fun reading a Stephen King book again. Like I don't know, he's such a fascinating writer in so many ways. Austin and I were talking about him a bunch recently about how like he, I think, is one of those names that similarly to Spielberg, like it's just, you know, synonymous with horror and like just so pervasive in pop culture. Everyone knows Stephen King, associates him with horror and being scared and everything else. And then his output is fucking crazy. It's just so much over the years and so consistent. But Austin and I were talking about too, how like the dude, like it's not even like there are small moments. It happens pretty regularly. I think overall he's a very good, strong writer. But then there are moments, whether it's a novel or a novella or a short story, where you're just like, holy shit, dude, like you're a great writer. Like it's just his output is so high that there's bound to be some stuff that doesn't land as well or whatever. And then he has little idiosyncrasies that are super interesting and can be maybe kind of annoying or maybe kind of endearing, just depending. One of them is like, I don't know if I haven't read a ton of his stuff, and I would imagine at different parts and times of his career, it probably meshed better. But there are definitely moments in some of his books, probably in the later ones even more so, where he'll write kids, and you're just like, kids don't talk like that. Like you can tell he's trying to like be a little bit more hip, or maybe he's repeating slang he's heard, but it's not necessarily that pervasive, and so it rings a little weird. And so there are moments of that in this book. It's written from the perspective of this kid. He starts off, I want to say like 5-6 years old. And then we get a chunk of the book where he's 9. And then about 100 pages in, he's in junior high. So he's like maybe 13. And I think based off of the cover and the description on the back, this will probably be the rest of the book is when he's a teenager. But then he's kind of jumping, like he's mentioning times, he's narrating the book, so he'll mention times where he's like, later on in college my roommate did this or that, so you know that he's telling it from later on in his life. But it's a good fit for the hard case crime series in the sense that it is definitely a crime book, but it also has, I think, more so than the other 2 books he did, which I could be wrong, but I want to say that those are more straight ahead crime. This kid can see dead people, so the way it works is, when someone dies, there will be a short period of time where they're still kind of around. And it might be where they died. It might be somewhere that they used to go a lot. So it might not be the exact place that they died, but that could be one of the options. And he's able to see them, talk to them, interact with them. Nobody else can see or hear them. And the kind of central premise of the book has started to come together now, I think, which is that there's this dirty cop who used to be friends / romantically connected to his mom, and the kid's mom. And she is using this kid because she's trying to get back in the good graces of like the precinct. Because at this point, they know she's dirty. She's not able to get any traction anymore with her career. And there was this like serial bomber dude that had been killing people and leaving explosives around the city. The cops finally found him. He kills himself when they're like raiding his apartment, but he left a note saying like, there's one last bomb, like for me to go out, my biggest one yet, blah, blah, blah. So this dirty cop is like, let me get this kid in, question this dude, and I can then bust this case, resolve this bomb and become a hero and get back in. And I can tell it's already kind of spider webbing from there in terms of what's going to go on. So it's very punchy, very like, as with a lot of Stephen King stuff, it reads super quick, but not I've read some books where it's just like you're reading a screenplay. It's so, sparse or whatever. It's not like that, but King just has a just crazy odd talent of making just books read so fast and engaging in a way where you're just like, holy shit, I've sat down to read this book 2 or 3 times and I'm 100 pages in. Yeah. And that's definitely the case here too. So I haven't sent Brand. She's read this one before, so I've been kind of moving at a slower pace because she hasn't started it yet, but I'm getting more and more into it now to where I'm like, I'm just starting to fly through it. So I need to send her a voice message to be like, here's what I think about it so far. Blah, blah. It won't be spoilers for her, but yeah, it's good. It's got a dash of, I don't know, like The Shining or It or something in the King canon, so to speak, because of this kid and his ability. But other than that, very much like a, boots on the ground crime sort of deal. But nice. It's good. I like it so far. And then the only other thing I was going to mention is the new 28 years later, rather, movie came out this weekend, The Bone Temple. Nia DaCosta directed it, written by Alex Garland. I haven't seen it yet. It sounds like I'm setting it up because I watched it. I haven't seen it yet. Very excited to. It has been getting fantastic reviews, like shockingly great. And I say that only because this was the one that seemed like, how's it going to go? Like Danny Boyle, like he obviously didn't make Weeks Later, but he's made the rest of them. Garland's been involved. They shot this one back to back with 28 Years Later, which, 28 Years Later came out 6-ish months ago, 7 months ago. So it was not long. And I don't know if I've seen at least one of her films, the new Candyman movie, which I fucking loved. Like I want to go back and rewatch it, but I saw it after everyone else kind of did. And I remember being just so shocked about how much I like the original one. We've talked about them on the show before. I think the original one's the only one I've seen of the OG run. And this newer one I thought was fantastic. I was really into it. So I was excited for it with her, but also you're like, Danny Boyle's got a pretty, singular directorial sort of style and vision, especially on these, 28 movies where they have like that, especially the first one with Cillian Murphy, like that era, digital video, the editing, all that, which they expand on and do in new and different ways with 28 Years Later, with shooting it on iPhones and the editing. And you've seen Years Later, right?
Yeah.
The first, okay. So I hadn't seen it since the theater, and I wanted to rewatch it before The Bone Temple. So yesterday, my friend Sean and I, who I saw it with the first time in the theater, we hadn't seen it since then, so we rewatched it. And holy shit, dude, I fucking love this movie so much. Yeah, I think it's so good. I've talked about it on the show already before. I believe it was maybe an episode just with you as well. And then I think you talked about it too when you watched it. But so, I'll keep it brief because just kind of probably parroting stuff I've already said. But I'm just so in love with the direction they took with it. I think having those directions or having those like lore and world updates to where it's like we don't see what's going on outside of mainland UK, but we know that it seems like the rest of the world has moved on.
Yeah, they just left us.
Not ignored it. Yeah, but
no,
just
they did.
Well, there's still we get a glimpse that there are patrols, like quarantine patrols of different countries that are making sure that no one's leaving. And if anybody goes onto the mainland, they have to stay there. They won't let them come back off. So it's clearly still a thing people know about, but there's a soldier, a Swedish soldier who shows up in 28 years later, and he talks about his friend back home being an Amazon delivery driver. Yeah. So you know that at the very least, a lot of society has pretty much gone back to how it was. But the mainland stuff, and specifically this little island with the what's the fucking, is it a causeway? The strip of land. Yeah. Is just so cool, dude. I'm so into it. Watching it this time too, I remember feeling how I did the first time, which is just I can understand how for some people this might be too much or might be something that they're not into. But fortunately for me, selfishly, it is. It works like fucking gangbusters for me, dude. I think it's so cool. Yeah. I love the culture. I love how it's a chunk of time that's been long enough that there's not surprises to people, but it doesn't lessen the tension or the scares or the gore or whatever else, because it's still, crazy shit going down. But just the way that they've adapted, and it's little details with the set design and production stuff, it just it works so crazy to me. I think go ahead.
Yeah, I think having seen the trailers for the Bone Temple now and seeing little things that look as though they relate back to the 28 years later movie, like when he's with his dad and they go into that abandoned house and you find the infected guy that's hanging by his ankles, with his guts spilled out, and then in the trailer for the Bone Temple, I think we see that same house before it was gutted, and probably who was responsible for and why that guy was hanging by his ankles the way he was.
Well, there's a big clue in this one because he's got the word Jimmy carved in his torso too, which they don't. That was another thing I love about it, is all that world building stuff that they don't really explain. You can piece together that the kid from the beginning, cold open, is the guy that shows up at the end, and there's multiple times you see the word Jimmy written on stuff, including flesh, as I just mentioned. But
the only time you think about that character really is the very beginning of the movie, and then at the end. And the fact that they open the movie with a character that isn't in it for the rest of the film.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, at least when I was watching it, I wasn't thinking, oh, he must be Jimmy then, because we keep seeing this name. I completely blanked over that, which just shows what a really well-made film it was, that I was fully invested in what was going on, but I wasn't trying to put things together. I was like, well, I think once during the movie, I thought to myself, we haven't seen that blonde kid. I wonder, he's going to turn up at some point. Maybe he's a member of the village or something, or maybe he was a founder of the, I was thinking that. But then, he turns up right at the end, and then the entire second movie is obviously, carrying on, but also going back and showing the breadcrumbs that you missed from, or maybe that you just didn't pay attention to from the first one, that meant that he was actually ever present throughout that entire film. I think that's a really clever way of making these two movies side by side.
Oh, I think so too. And it's a cool additional way of the main POV you have in the movie is Spike, the boy, and his mom and dad, and then but then, and I think that kid does an amazing job. That character is great. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think too, dude. Watching him yesterday, where it's just it is crazy to remember that this is the little kid from Kick-Ass. He's such a good. I think he's a pretty underrated actor, and being able to, I don't know, maybe people, but it's just I think for a while he had this sort of kind of maybe pop culture section image he had carved out between Kick-Ass and then the Avengers movie, or the second Avengers movie rather, and seeing him in this where he just looks and feels completely different. And then Jodie Comer's great as his mom, and then we get Ralph Fiennes, who is such a great character in this film that shows up midway through. Suddenly the movie had there's so many shots in this movie, moments that are just so gorgeous, and and beautiful. The score by like the songs by Young Fathers, like there's just all this shit where it's like if you are a hardcore fan of the first film, and maybe Weeks Later, it's kind of the forgotten entry with a lot of people, and I get why. I liked it, but it's it's made by different people and it's kind of a different thing. Yeah. But the vibe is so different, but it's reflective of the world changing. So you have all of these things throughout the movie that happen, but then you get this extra crazy one at the end, which again, I know for some people was divisive. It works great on me when we get Jimmy brought back in, like you said. And not only do we get that resolution and that time back to the opening, but we also get another glimpse of like, oh, there are other people, like obviously it makes sense, but we're going to get to see other people that grew up in this world in a way that is unlike how Spike grew up. Like he grew up in this town, this like settlement or whatever, where they pretty much locked it down and figured it out for themselves. And more or less culture continued in certain ways. There's like moments of levity when the Swedish soldier shows up and he's talking about stuff. He shows him a picture of his girlfriend on his phone and she's got all this lip filler and injections and stuff. And Spike's like, what's wrong with her face? Like there's different moments where it, you see that gap, widen of like all these things that we have, they've lost because they don't have cell phones. They don't have connections to the internet. There's nothing like that. But then we get to see this Jimmy dude. And that last scene I think is so fun, so funny, so weird, also kind of scary that I get why it's off-putting to some people. But for me, it just pulled me even more in where it's like, oh man, what a cool way. Like even if they wouldn't have, we knew that there was going to be at least one more. It was supposed to be a trilogy, which they've since greenlit the third. So they will be making the third. And I guess Danny Boyle's coming back to do that one. Alex Garland's writing it just like he did these two. So excited for that. Even if we wouldn't have had that, it would have just been this movie. For me personally, I would have been totally just on board and excited about this whole because it's like, yeah, we don't have to get resolutions and answers for everything. We just get to see a glimpse of like 28 years is a long time. Like that's long enough for them to kind of figure stuff out. And 28 days later, we are seeing stuff where it is so chaotic and hectic and people are just trying to figure out how to survive one day to the next. And in years, that's no longer a thing. And the stuff that they add to the mythology of the infected, I was really into. There's just honestly nothing in this movie that I'm not on board for. I think it's great. And there was stuff last night, dude, watching it that I was crying at, like the moments with Ray Fiennes and Jodie Comer and the boy and like him talking about death and life. Like there's just so much good stuff in there that you don't expect from a movie that also has some, just thick swinging zombie dong at the same time. Like it's a very like crazy, irreverent, fun, but touching and deep like tone. It's so good. I think it's so good.
There's not many movies of that type that, that there's a scene where you just sit back and you're just like, holy shit, like this was shot so beautifully and so well
on fucking iPhones too.
And I've never seen such a majestic dick.
So I found this out this morning. I saw a clip earlier this week because they're doing press for the new film, obviously. And the dude who plays Samson, that big, like super tall, thick in all definitions of the word or infected. I'll stop calling it zombie. We're gonna get some emails. He had to wear like it's a prosthetic, which I was like, you know what, that makes sense. It looks like a dangerous piece of equipment.
Filming in the UK, it's going to be cold.
It is
so
intense. Yeah. I found out this morning when I was looking through, just as I do when I'll watch a movie, I'll get on the Wikipedia article and read about production stuff. That all of the nudity, or at least maybe genitalia, I don't remember what the exact rules are, but at least genitalia are prosthetics because the kid who played Spike was underage, so they had to. So which I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. It looks pretty real. Can't take your eyes off of it when Samson shows up. It's the star of the show.
There's some proper Dirk Diggler stuff going on there. I'm interested.
Great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the fact that I'm going off of memory now, so you'll be able to tell me because you watched it very recently, obviously. At the end of the movie where they reintroduce Jimmy and his gang,
yeah,
do they replay the Teletubby music?
I'm trying to remember now. I think it's like a punk rock version of it. It might be. Okay. It might not be the. No, it might be the Teletubbies music because obviously at the beginning they're watching it.
Yeah,
and then that's really one of the craziest things. It's off screen, but a room full of children gets killed at the opening of this movie. Like it doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah. I mean, Teletubbies is creepy as fuck anyway, but
sure,
like, especially when you're in a like zombie apocalypse, end of the world situation. I'm just kind of really looking forward to the possibility of an explanation as to why he's got them all dressed up in tracksuits with blonde hair or blonde wigs.
Yeah, right? I know that there's a Jimmy Savile thing going on. I think Alex Garland talked about that, where it was like this would have been a world where that dude's crimes weren't exposed because of when
Good point, yeah.
the world ended. So there's this intentional sort of blending of lack of awareness of certain things and the irreverency. Like he has such a fucked up scene at the beginning with he runs into that church. His dad is a priest and his dad has clearly lost his mind and is just like, this is glorious. And he's like screaming yes as these infected are ripping him apart. And so there's already a pretty fucked foundation of religion for this kid. But then there's all he had was religion. I'm assuming expanding off of what the very little that we see, but religion
he seems to have rejected religion the way he's wearing the cross upside down.
Right. But I'm saying like when the world ended, all he had was pop culture, religion, and, these references that stayed in there as a kid, but then ended and the world kept going. So you can expound on it and be like, okay, well, this probably like infected, so to speak, impacted his like worldview and reference, because when you see that gang show up,
it's a creepy look. I
and it's crazy because they all have weapons and they're bouncing off of walls and stuff. And I can see how for some people that would be a turn off moment where they're just like, what the fuck is this? Like after this movie being what it was. But also I think that's what's so great about the scene is that it's supposed to be weird and off-putting. Like, and Spike is your POV character and it makes no sense to him either. But it is a fun sort of, I don't know. It reminds me of the very British, like 2000 AD kind of, social, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like satirical sort of like, Judge Dredd or, what was that one that, Kevin O'Neill, what was his name? Fuck. It was like another kind of riff on Captain America kind of stuff, but it's doing that satirical thing of taking those ideas and then throwing them into the future and how they get warped and change or whatever else. Yeah. Like, anyway, very excited for the new movie. I don't know really anything about it. I watched the couple trailers that they released and that's it. I haven't looked up, anything. I've been relatively careful to avoid spoilers and stuff like that. So I have no clue where the story goes. I'm pretty positive at least that dude, I'm forgetting his name now, who plays Jimmy. He was also the lead antagonist in Sinners. Jack O'Connell? Is that his name, I think? I could be wrong.
Tell you.
I'm pretty sure he's in it. I know Ralph Fiennes is in it. I know the kid is back. And Samson's back. So I'm assuming, some of those plot, and then the trailer definitely makes it seem like Spike is now part of that gang and feels uneasy about it. And so
I think it's going to play around a little bit with time frames. Like I feel like I've seen stuff in the trailer that could very easily have fit in before 28 years later. There's stuff that obviously comes
and he's like a doctor.
Fact.
I think I remember that
but
too.
Also I think there's a scene where he first tests his theory that he can use the drugs in the blowpipe on Samson. And then obviously there are face-to-face meetings between him and Jimmy. And I think there's a picture of Spike in the blonde wig, whether it's a wig or he's grown his hair out and dyed it, which would mean that you've got some kind of a time skip going on there. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they play around with all of those bits. And I'm like you. I've seen the trailers. I'm really trying not to see any kind of spoilers about it. And I'm gonna actually, I might have a look and see what listings are like for tonight for it, because fuck it. What else am I going to do on Sunday?
I will be talking about it next week as well. So I'm seeing it tomorrow. So yeah, we'll maybe both be following up with our thoughts on the new one. But everyone I follow on Letterboxd has given it pretty high scores. Like for I've seen for multiple people, like highest they've scored of any of the movies in the franchise, and have gone out of their way to say it's the best one yet. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to keep my expectations in check, so I'm not. Yeah, I'm just excited to be back in that world again. Like even yesterday, there were 2 or 3 times I turned to Sean and I was just like, I fucking love this so much, dude. Like just the world that they built. Like I think it's so cool, and I think I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff in genre fiction anyway. Like when we have worlds that, you know, we have a book or whatever, and then we jump forward. You know, it might be decades, it might be centuries, and seeing how things have changed. We don't get to see it often in movies and TV, film and TV. Like it does happen, but I think it's a narrative thing that I think for a lot of like general audience members, like it can be a turnoff because they're like, well, I want to see what happened to this character, and I want to see more with, you know, I don't want to have a brand new cast or whatever else, which I understand to a degree, but I think when you can really lean into it and do something and pull it off and have something that's just as compelling in totally different ways, I think is such a cool technique, a trick, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me this week. So unfortunately, we can talk about Underworld Rise of the Lycans. Let me get my little Wikipedia article pulled up here. Okay. Underworld Rise of the Lycans, 2009 American action horror film directed by Patrick Tatopoulos from a screenplay by Danny McBride, Dirk Blackman, Howard McCain. Oh, I'm mixing up 2 different political names. Based on a story by, I was like Howard Dean and John McCain. I was like, the guy that fucking screamed weird. Based on a story by Len Wiseman, Robert Orr, and McBride, is a prequel to Underworld and the 3rd installment in the Underworld film series. The film stars Michael Sheen, Bill Nighy, Rona Mitra, Stephen McIntosh, and Kevin Grivo. The plot focuses primarily on the origins of the characters and the events that led up to the Vampire Lycan War. Kate Beckinsale, who starred in the previous Underworld films, appears briefly at the end of the film. Is that even fair to say? It's like footage from the first movie.
Yeah, it feels like... I mean, I remember when we started all of this... And
I read that from Wikipedia.
I was going through the cast list and seeing how many movies they were all in. And there was the bad guy from the first movie, whose name I cannot remember right now. Craven, yeah, and that actor was credited with being in the first 3 movies, including this one, and I was like, that's really, really generous to give him a credit for this movie, because it's literally like a line that was lifted from the first movie. It's kind of mad, and also that one line that they do lift. Shane Brolly's accent work, holy shit! Dude, I see what you were talking about now.
I didn't
pick it up before. But yeah, that line is terrible. Like thick Irish accent halfway through.
Yeah. I would say Kate Beckinsale is kind of in this, but not because of the ending. She does narration at the beginning and end. And I think that the stuff at the beginning is new for the film. I think. At least it seemed like they had her recording new stuff to set up the movie and like set up the story or whatever. All right, man. So I hadn't seen this since the theater.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I would say it was a better experience than Evolution in terms of just my enjoyment. Now, I will also add that I took a research trip to Michigan for this one. This time I was like 2 weeks in a row. Daddy's not going to be sober this time around, which definitely helped. Now, I will also say that there were 3 different times where I paused this movie, fully expecting to be a certain amount of the way in, and every single time without fail, it was 50% of that number I expected to see. It was when I was like, we're probably halfway through, and we had been 20 minutes in. The next time I was like, we're probably about ready for the 3rd act. We were halfway through the movie. Like it was consistently that. So I don't know if that was, you know, the substances in my brain affecting it. I don't think so.
I think so.
Yeah. My friend who was sober was like, oh man, I thought the same thing, that we were wrapping up here, but no. Part of it too is that like the movie has some weird narrative stuff happen that makes it feel like we're getting to the ends of acts, but we're not yet time-wise, because it's a 90-minute movie-ish. And honestly, it's even shorter than that, because I think there's like almost 15 minutes worth of credits. So it's like an hour 17, realistically. But unlike what we were talking about earlier with films that have that like in between what we used to think of direct to video, and now they have this Netflix sort of tier, this movie feels pretty direct to video. It came out in the theater, and I saw it in the theater, and I remember it being fairly packed. The movie we went through budgets and box office at one point in one of these episodes. It cost $35 million and made 91, so it did relatively well.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of people being there at the theater, and it being a thing. Same thing for Evolution, but I don't remember it looking great then. It definitely doesn't now. I think of the three movies we've watched, it looks the worst. But for weird reasons. A lot of it's CG, where it's just like that probably looked not great then, and it's definitely aged badly. But then some of them are strange, dude. Like kind of like what we talked about with Evolution, where it was like, okay, they have more money now, but somehow some of these things look worse. And it definitely felt like a Robert Rodriguez Rebel Without a Camera thing, where with the first movie, having those constraints of budget made them be more creative or more focused. And it's made the first one, at least rewatching these three for our series here, has made me consistently think the first one looks the best. Like it is not, nothing has really gotten better, down to like Victor's eyes in this movie, which by the way, I forgot he was even in this, and he's in the whole movie. So all I remembered was Michael Sheen and Kevin Grievo in like Lycan shit. And that's Lycan. But Nahi is in the whole movie. His eyes look weird as fuck. Did they look that way to you too? Like way too blue.
Yeah, I think that you've got the problem that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about Van Helsing of the blue light movies, and this is very much kind of under a blue light. So they do have that blue hue, but I wonder if that's almost kind of like how, with comic books, Batman wears a black suit, but when he's drawn, they use a lot of blues for the highlights of the light and whatnot.
I mean specifically the like blue vampire eyes, because Celine has it in the first movie, and they'll get those dials and sliders on the blue eyes up a little bit when they're like feeding or when they're like extra heightened or whatever. But Nahi's eyes look like fucking Fremen Arrakis Dune blue on a level where I was like, are they CG? What did they do here? It's distracting most of the time. Anyway, that's such a minor thing, but I just mean like there's weird sort of, and the other thing, when I brought that up last night, I was talking to Sean about it. I was like, there's part of me still that exists, the teenager buried in my heart that likes these movies, that's like, well, Victor's younger in this movie. Maybe it's a lore thing. But then the adult part of me is like, no, I think they just fucked up. Like, I think that just it wasn't a great move, and they fumbled it or whatever else. Anyway,
different type of blue contact lens, and they were like, well, it's too late now.
I've spun us off already into talking about the movie. Let me throw it to you. What did you think overall? Was this the first time you had seen this?
Yeah, absolutely. First time.
Okay.
It is fresh,
Hit me with your
clean
thoughts.
material for me. I didn't dislike it. I think if I was to rank the three movies at the moment, obviously original Underworld comes in at number one. And then this one might be slightly ahead of Evolution.
It might be for me now too, dude, which blows my fucking mind, because growing up it was not that way. But
No, and I get it, because you're investing in a story, in an ongoing story, and a prequel can break that stride. And at the time, you're like, well, who wants this shit? Let's get on with the story that I've invested my last few years in. I think the interesting thing for me is you mentioned the fact that like this looks probably the worst of the three. This is the only one of the three that is 100% set, except for spurious use of archive materials at the end of the movie. It's exclusively set in almost a fantasy setting, and by that I mean castles and and woods and things like that. Like the stuff that's outside of the castle in the woods doesn't look too bad. The cave thing seemed a little bit ridiculous. Like, I don't think you're going to find a cave that big, but we're living in a world with Lycans and vampires here. Suspend your disbelief, motherfucker. But the castle, especially, there's one scene where Michael Sheen, his character Lucian, is in the sewers, and the camera is mounted up on the ceiling, and he runs towards the camera. He does a left turn, a sharp left turn, and runs back the way he came, because there's like a half a foot thick wall that separates him. And I was just like, that's the kind of shit that they used to do on Planet Death on Star Trek back in the Next Generation era, where they have like this tiny little set, and depending on where they put the camera, it can be 8 or 9 different caverns in one go. Like, they didn't have the space on the soundstage to have this massive labyrinthine tunnel, so they were just like, well, he runs towards the camera and he turns around and he runs back again. I don't know, man. It just struck me as silly, and I don't know why.
The whole movie is very much like that, like what you're describing. So Patrick Tatopoulos, I've known about this dude since I was a little kid, weirdly enough, because when I first started getting interested in watching like behind the scenes things, I remember seeing him show up in a few different making of docs, because he is known as, even now he's directed stuff. He's 68 now, which is crazy to think about, but he was a production designer like guy. So I'll read his little thing here on Wikipedia. His designs have appeared in numerous motion pictures, including Pitch Black, Underworld, iRobot, Chronicles of Riddick, Independence Day, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Stargate, Spawn, Godzilla, Stuart Little, 300, I Am Legend, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, Live Free or Die Hard. Like, he's been involved in tons of films. Matthew Broderick's character in the American Godzilla is named Nick Tatopoulos, as in honor of this dude, named after him. Like, I think he's a well-known and respected guy in that, as a designer, as a production person. I remember watching, I had a Linkin Park DVD when I was in junior high, and they had a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff about music videos and everything. And he was in that. Like, he worked on, I could be misremembering this, I'm pretty sure that's right, like Linkin Park music videos. So it's, oh shit, he's even involved with the new Silent Hill that's coming out. So I mean, it looks like he's still working. But the movie does have, so I want to like give the guy his props, because I think he deserves them. But also, like, it kind of does feel like a movie directed by a production designer guy. Like, it doesn't have a directorial vision. That sounds pretentious, but I think that's one thing that like does set the first one apart. An easy way to tell it for me is I think Michael Sheen in the first movie is pretty good. I think he's arguably the best actor. Maybe not even arguably. It's not like he has a ton of competition. I think he's the best actor in the movie, and he's able to do something with his arc as Lucian in the original Underworld, where he's the bad guy. He's the protagonist, or he's the antagonist at first. And then you realize he's more complex than that, relatively speaking, for one of these movies. And then you see like a pain and a sadness in him that this stuff goes back further. And that's part of Celine's whole arc, right? Of realizing that Victor's lying to her and that the vampires are maybe shitty. And she is then caught, there's already a war going on, but then it becomes more complicated. Lucian has to be the character that brings all of that to light. And I think he's, relatively speaking, again, pretty fantastic in that role, with very little given to him, but is able to bring a lot to the table. I don't think he's terrible in this, but there's a difference in his performance. And arguably some of it could be the script. Arguably some of it could be the amount of screen time he has is much higher. But I think there also is a thing where it's like there was a less of a directorial sort of presence in this movie that kind of bleeds through to everything else. Again, it feels bad. I don't want to shit on Tatopoulos by any means. But the movie does have, again, kind of a direct-to-video sort of like Sci-Fi Channel vibe. It
feels a little flat in places. Yeah. Like, there's not enough bounce there. The interesting thing, this was, I hadn't really thought about this. I hadn't had it. Well, maybe in the back of my mind, in the subconscious, it was germinating away. But I like Michael Sheen as an actor. I really do.
I do too. Yeah.
I don't think of him as an action lead. I don't like, and he was in amazing shape considering what he the parts he normally plays. I mean, there was a movie where he played Brian Clough, who, for anyone that isn't aware of who Brian Clough is, middle-aged alcoholic football manager.
Okay.
So.
Also, Frost Nixon, I bring that one a lot, which I've only seen it once, but I remember him being great in that.
Yeah, he's in Frost Nixon, and then obviously he's in Good Omens. And he's the cuddly, nice guy who occasionally can play parts like in the original Underworld where he's a bad guy, but then it turns out there's more to him than that. He's got layers like an onion. He's an ogre. He's Shrek. But I never saw him as an action lead, and I think he does a decent job. He certainly got himself into what's probably the best shape of his life for this movie.
He has sex on a cliff in this movie.
Yeah. Holy shit. You talked about in the previous movie about how you've never seen a less unsexy sex scene in a movie. I'm going to raise you this one because holy shit. It just looks like a couple of people just kind of like parkouring with their clothes off.
Oh, dude.
It's so mad.
My son Daniel was with my dad yesterday after he had a basketball game in the morning, and then he left with my dad. So I was here, I wasn't going to watch 28 Years Around Him. He's too young to see a lot of the shit in that movie.
Yeah.
But we had started watching Rise of the Lycans, and he was like, am I allowed to watch this? And I couldn't remember, but I was like, I mean, yeah, whatever. I'm sure it's fine. And so he was sitting on the couch playing like Minecraft on his Switch, and the sex scene starts happening, and I looked over it. He was looking at the screen. I was like, don't watch this part. And he was like, why not? I can't watch it. I was like, I don't remember. Just play your game. And he was like, okay. 2 seconds later was that cliff shot. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
It's like one of them needs to shout out, I'm the king of the world or something for that shot, right? Like, it's just mad.
It's ridiculous.
I really love Michael Sheen as an actor. He's another one of those actors. I don't know if I would put him on that level of Tom Hanks yet, where I've never seen a bad performance because I've not seen enough of his work. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everything.
He's very reliable.
He's so reliable. He's able to morph into whatever role it is that you give him, seemingly.
Also, dude, have you seen that clip of him talking to the football team and like quoting poetry, like doing a speech for them?
Oh, I forget. Yeah, it was the World Cup a couple of years ago. Wales had got to their first World Cup since 1958. And
that shit moved me to tears. Yeah, and I had no context for I knew what it was happening, but it's like I didn't have the level of knowledge you would have brought to watching that. Oh. And it still fucked me up. Like he's so fucking good. Very good.
Genuinely, like I don't think the guy can do any wrong. I need to search out more of his stuff to really get an in-depth knowledge of his work. But all of the big stuff that he's been in that I've seen, he's always been very good. But I don't, even with him getting into the physical shape that he got into, I just don't really buy him as an action star. And that's probably the problem for this movie, is that when they cast him in Underworld, they were casting him for a specific reason, for a specific story being told. Mm-hmm. And he's dead by the end.
Like, he's dead, not going to be in sequels.
But he's meant to be the bad guy who ends up being Shrek, right? Right. And in this movie, he's always the good guy, and he's always like the uber Chad, Lycan super warrior who can kick everyone's ass, but is kept to heel by his vampire lord, basically just on the promise that we'll let you carry on making swords, apparently. I don't know. It's kind of a weird one, that. Right.
I'll tell you what.
It doesn't really work.
I'll tell you what this movie is. And I have a lot of experience here being able to say this, because I have lettered a lot of licensed tie-in comic books. This is a licensed tie-in comic book prequel that they made into a movie. This is the perfect story for something like that. They probably had made it or worked on it as a comic book and then ended up being like, it has all of the trappings. Like, we got it as a prequel scene in the original movie. Like, you see it. Like, when you're watching this movie, if you've seen the original, Sonya's going to die. They're going to kill her and burn her up and he's going to be chained up and screaming. Like, you've seen it happen already in the original film, played by Danny McBride's wife in real life. She played the Sonya role, who doesn't even have any lines. So they have Rona Mitra as her in this, who, no shade on Rona Mitra, dude. I've seen her in other stuff. I don't think she's she's not great in this. It's very clear that they wanted a Kate Beckinsale type.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That even plays into the plot. Obviously, they mentioned that with Victor and all that, and that's why he spared Celine.
It's an uncanny resemblance. It really is.
It's somewhat, yeah, definitely in some ways.
And I don't think the role gives her anything to really get her teeth into. So I've seen her in other things, and she's been pretty good. She was in a Scottish apocalyptic movie from back in the day called Doomsday.
I was going to say Doomsday. I like that. I haven't seen it since then. That was a dude who made shitty Hellboy. There's 2 shitty Hellboy movies now, but he made the Descent. Fuck, what's his name? He made Dog Soldiers. Anyway, the guy who made, I'm looking him up. The guy who made that made Doomsday.
Neil Marshall.
Yeah.
And then I completely forgot. I don't even think I noticed that it was her. She played Mercy Graves in Supergirl for 3 or 4 episodes.
Did she? The TV series, okay.
Yeah. And I did not realize at the time, I didn't recognize her at all. Just kind of mad. But the reason why everyone knows her is because if you are of a certain vintage, and we both are, David, you will remember...
Man, I unfortunately brought this up yesterday to Sean.
Yeah, so when Tomb Raider 2 came out, and we've been talking...
Never mind.
Oh, okay. We had a conversation about Tomb Raider very recently. Yeah. The original live-action Tomb Raider Lara Croft was Rona Mitra. She actually did a bunch of promotional shots when Tomb Raider 2 came out, and I remember seeing them on the back of video game magazines, and I think the Arsenal official magazine had an advert in it at one point for that as well. And it was let me see, I would have been 14 years old, so basically bang in the middle of the age range that they were looking for at the time. It did funny things to me, dude. I should probably look up the stills, but she is a face that people of a certain vintage would recognize immediately from that. And then you have all of the other stuff that she did over the years. She was in Hollow Man back in 2000. It was only a part.
That's the one I was going to say. When I say unfortunately, because she is a character who is absolutely a victim. She's in the scene basically to get naked. She doesn't even have a name. She's his neighbor or whatever. That was the first time I'd seen Rona Mitra. So that's why I'm unfortunately, because it's not, the most respectful situation for, and that movie's, just kind of grimy and gross anyway. I mean, you want to see the outfit they put her in for Tomb Raider. Yeah, well, I know. That's what I mean. All these. So it's a thankless, just nothing kind of role. This whole movie's weird too, dude, because it's remember the little prologue that we got at Underworld Evolution where we got to see everybody on horses and shit and no one had guns? Here's a whole movie. There's no guns. A lot of the stuff, we talked about, ironically, one of the best things about the first movie is how much it was aping The Matrix. They're not able to do that in this movie at all. There might be, little visual flares or things, but a lot of the leather and guns and all that kind of subway stations and Eastern European and that's all toast. It's just this, like you said, sort of feels like a fantasy world because we're dealing with vampires and werewolves, but it is, just, I don't know if it would have been medieval. It would have been hundreds,
I think this was
thousands,
meant to be
whatever
the
years ago.
1200s or something like that. It was proper medieval times. I don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention to all of the dates that were mentioned.
I don't even remember if there were any.
The big issue for this movie and the reason why probably neither of us concentrated too much on the details.
Holy shit, dude. You sent me a picture of Tomb Raider, Chris. I remember this now that you say that.
Yeah, you do. Because you are of a certain vintage.
Yeah. That's nuts.
So the problem for this movie is that you don't need to pay attention to it, and really they've trained you not to because you already know the entire story. You know Sonya's going to die. You know that Lucian is going to end up leading a rebellion against the vampires. You know that Victor is going to survive this movie. It completely takes, and pardon the pun, but it takes the teeth out of what should be a climactic battle between Lucian and Victor. Lucian stabbing Victor through the mouth and then dropping him into a pool of water which is illuminated by daylight. Any other movie, you'd be like, "All right, well that's him done then." But no, we know that he lives because we've seen the first two movies,
and then you also just see him in this movie later. And it just looks like motherfucker bit his tongue too hard.
Well, because they realise that we have to show he's alive because every comic is someone's first, I guess. I don't know,
right?
But
dude, it feels so much like a comic book prequel. This would have been a 98-page little graphic novel that, a little bit further in time, probably they would have been like, we're not spending the money on this, but we'll make a comic book.
But the issue, the issue with making a prequel to anything is if you don't have anything original or new to tell us, then all you're doing is committing an idea to paper. You're not, you're not entertaining us with plot twists and new information and brand new characters. I mean, one of the main characters in this movie is literally a character that died in the first one that we already knew, who turns up and is like, I don't want to become a vampire. I don't want that curse. And then he ends up taking the curse anyway because we know he does, because he was a bloody Lycan in the first movie.
Yep.
And great to see him back. I'm glad he got a second payday because I did enjoy him as a character. I thought he's got a really entertaining... You're talking
about Reyes, I think is his name.
His vocal range is mental.
It's crazy.
He's an absolute unit of a human being.
Also massive nerd. Has written lots of comics. So I don't know if you know, it's a relatively minor Marvel character, but there's a character named Adam the Blue Marvel who's like a Superman kind of sort of archetype that in Marvel comics. Right. You'll see him in what's that card game? I used to play it all the fucking time. Marvel Snap. That the dudes who made Hearthstone made. Pretty fun game, honestly. But it was one of those games where eventually I was like, I am playing this too much. I have to delete it. It's getting to a place where I'm just constantly playing it. You'll see Adam the Blue Marvel show up in games like that, where there's a deep catalog of Marvel characters that they're pulling from. Anyway, created by Kevin Grievo, this dude. I remember when the miniseries came out when I was in college. So he's a hardcore comic book nerd fan. He's involved in the writing or stories for all these Underworld movies. I've always, I don't know a ton about him, but I've always when I've seen him in interviews and stuff, been like, oh, you seem like a cool guy. In the sense of you're clearly into a lot of different things that, especially back then would have been stuff that people would have maybe still kind of been poking fun at. It would have been pre, MCU popping off and kind of changing everything. But he's always been consistent, with writing comics and stuff that doesn't have movies attached to it. He seems like he just loves genre shit. And dude, as much shit as I'll talk about these movies and we'll joke about them, I do think that there is an element of not authenticity. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't think that these are made by people who are cynical about it necessarily. I think that there, for better or for worse, is a streak through all of them that there are people involved that are excited about making them. And I think probably that's what makes me not completely write them off. Even last night watching it, there were moments where Sean was like, wait, why did this? And I was like, oh, it's because, Celine woke up Victor in the first. My mind immediately goes back to all the lore stuff where I remember being really into them. We also realized last night, and I can't believe I've never thought about this, and maybe I have, maybe you said it on a previous episode and I forgot. I don't know. But Sean and I were basically like, oh shit, this is action goth Twilight. I'd never thought about it until now in terms of that. And I was talking to someone and she was like, you should make a Venn diagram with Twilight and Underworld and see how many overlaps there are. And I was like, I think a lot, honestly. I think that in the same way that, and I started to be like, this is Twilight for boys, quote unquote. But then even that, I was like, honestly, they're not even super masculine movies either. I don't fall into that shit anyway, but they're just kind of what those movies became before they happened, or, alongside slightly before, where that stuff was this phenomenon. And everyone, I think even fans of Twilight won't be like, oh, they're so well written, or they're just such amazingly made.
They're clearly not.
Right. Everybody, even the ultra diehard fans, it seems like they know they are what they are. They're these just melodramatic soap opera-y things. Like the Underworld movies are definitely have more of a horror vibe. Like honestly, there were a couple shots in this one where I was like, holy fuck, that was pretty violent for one of these movies. Like there's a dude, that part where they're using those ballistas and shooting those giant spears through the walls. There's a guy that gets fucking speared through the face.
Yep.
That it like pinned to the wall where I was like, holy shit, like that one was pretty gruesome. But there's a lot of overlap with Twilight. I think in terms of like the tone, and then Michael Sheen too. Like he plays a vampire elder in the Twilight movies, I'm pretty sure. So like yeah.
Fucking hell,
I think that there's I think I've never seen any of them.
No, he is. He's in it. Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure he is like a fucking Draco Malfoy's dad, whatever that dude's name, looking guy. He's got like long gray hair and anyway, Voltari, is that what they're called?
I have no idea.
There's like a vampire.
I'm aware of some of the actors that were in the movies, not necessarily the movies themselves.
Yeah, same for me. I remember I worked at a or was it a Blockbuster? It was a Blockbuster when the second or the third movie came out, and we had like a midnight release for it, and the line was out the door. It was me and like two other guys who worked there and the manager, and just moms, daughters, like all ages. It was all women from what I remember, and those movies were just massive. So we had the first one playing in the store, I think. At the very least, there was the scene. I remember seeing the scene a lot where they're playing baseball in the first movie, set to a Muse song.
I've seen
and
this, yes.
They're like waiting for the lightning, and they're like playing during a thunderstorm because if they hit the ball, it's so loud. So they're having to time it with it's so fucking stupid. But then at the same time, I'm like, these movies are almost as dumb. I would say they're a little less dumb.
No, I mean, they're absolutely fine. Like, they are basically, or they were kind of almost superhero movies for the girls. In as much as these movies are self-insert movies, right? Like, you have a main character and you put yourself in their shoes. So, of course, like, everybody buying that movie is going to be like, well, I would very much like to be the unsmiling British woman in this movie.
Swept off my feet, yeah.
Yeah, like, I want to be fought over by a hot vampire boy and a hot wolf boy. You know, like, that's why the majority of the clientele that night were women. We're never going to get those days again where a video store or, you know, any kind of shop, like on release day, you've got queues going out the door, because it's all digital now. And not to sound like an old fella, but I kind of miss.
No, I mean that Blockbuster is an urgent care now. I drove by it not too long ago. I was in
also, the queues haven't gotten any better then.
Yeah. Also, that is America. But the there's no. I think I want to say that there are still a couple video like mom and pop type deals, but I mean, all that shit's gone.
But no one's going to queue up for it when they can just click a reminder on their computer or phone to
maybe
automatically download it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that once I had that realization last night talking to Sean, where we were like, oh, these are just goth action Twilight movies, basically. Which is, I'm sure, not the first time anyone's had that observation. It's the first time I'd really thought about it or made the comparison.
It makes way too much sense not to have been someone's conclusion before then. Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of it.
It was a weird double thing where part of me was like cringing at the realization that that's what they were, but then also being like, yeah, whatever. That makes more sense for why I liked them, I think, in the sense that like you get wrapped up in the fandom and you get wrapped up in the lore. And even if it doesn't make sense or if it's stupid or silly or all the above. And so I don't know. I definitely had a better time watching this one than I did Evolution. I'm sure expectations were a big part of that. I was remembering Evolution being this like fun action movie and then realizing like this might be the worst of the bunch. And I just had rose tinted glasses. This one was easier. Again, I wasn't sober, but it was easier to snap into it and just kind of be like, all right, I get what this is going to be. And it's still rough. The CG still looks bad. The performances are bad. Like, all of it across the board is just, dude, there was a couple shots, one in particular that I laughed at so hard where I'm trying to remember who even was talking. Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter. But it was, I want to say it was Sonya and Lucian, let's say.
Right.
And a she like motions to a guard and he comes in to frame behind them and she's like, go do this thing. And he nods and then steps out of frame. And I couldn't stop laughing at how it was blocked because they don't even shift focus to the guy. So he stays out of focus the entire time. And it's one of those moments, one of Andy's classic lines on this show is that Mick Garris has a cameo in the Tales from Halloween movie, and he's the worst actor in the film and has no lines. Just him sitting there, he's somehow the worst actor. That's how this was. Like, you could tell this guy, and I immediately, my mind just started spinning into like, what was this day like for this dude on set where he's like, I finally have a role like where I don't have any lines, but I'm on screen. I'm in this film. I'm working hard as an actor, and then seeing the film, you know, half a year later, and it's like I'm not even in focus. Like, dude, I could not stop cracking up at this shot. I rewound it a couple times. It's such a goofy moment.
So we've Pepto-Bismol has been a thing in the US for years, right?
Yeah,
but apparently,
it's a weird left turn. But I'm with you. I'm going with you.
This will make sense, believe me.
Okay.
They made a big marketing push for it in the UK in the last year, and they've got an advert that goes along with it. And it's like a musical number. This person is in a cafe and they get a bit of heartburn. And then the music starts and you've got basically the village people of the UK. So you've got a traffic warden, you've got a policewoman, you've got a builder, you've got basically 5 random employments that allow you to cosplay, except that they've got kind of like pink and yellow outfits instead of their standard outfits. And the song is like, when you've got heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach. And then the last one, and this is where you reminded me of something, because I saw it in the Reddit. Someone said, what do you think the guy who booked the Pepto-Bismol advert felt when he was told you've finally got some work? And he was like, oh right, okay, have I got any lines? Yeah, you do. The last guy turns sideways, puts his hand on his bum, strikes an effeminate pose and sings diarrhea.
I was going to say, isn't it diarrhea?
Yeah. And like literally like, okay, so you finally got me a job on national TV and it's pretending I've got the shits.
Oh man, this is the kind of thing that like, just heard your mom. Yeah. Who's the guy who writes Jonathan Franzen, or like one of these like huge literary guy, like they'll write a 600-page existential novel about this guy. Like these are the kind of moments that you find in other genres where it's like, and then the height of my career was being the Pepto-Bismol diarrhea guy.
So he became a serial killer.
And then I fell into a deep depression, and like now I'm getting my life back together at the age of 56. Like it's, the amount of just life you can mine.
On the one hand, I feel bad for these people that are like extras and they finally get their big moment and they're out of focus or whatever. But at least they got paid, you know?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's not the worst thing in the world to get paid and then not have to put your face to probably what is considered by many to be the 3rd worst movie in a franchise.
Man, I don't know. I wonder how... I'm trying to think now if I've even talked to many people who like these movies. Like horror fans especially like know them. Maybe people have seen the first one, but like my friend Sean, who I watched this with last night and then also back in 2009, he and I saw, I think 2 through 4 in the theater. We saw the second one, this one, and the next one, but we didn't see Blood Wars, which I looked up I think it's called Blood Wars. It's Blood something. Yeah. I looked it up last night and realized, I always forget. It came out, I had a less than a 1 month-year-old son at home when that one came out. So it makes sense that I didn't go see it in the theater. But that's the only one I've yet to see. But other than him, I don't know that I don't know many people who've even watched the sequels. I forget where I was going with this original point. I just blanked on it. Anyway, who gives a fuck? They are what they are.
This is probably the 3rd worst in the franchise.
Oh yeah, I wondered like how people would rank them. I'm not. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not totally sure.
We'll be able to do that in another 2 episodes' time, hopefully.
We will, depending on how many more episodes Andy takes off and how much sanity
Well, I didn't mean the next 2 episodes. But
sure, but who knows? It's been a streak.
Another 2 episodes of these. What I'm really interested in seeing is Blood Wars, the reason being that I've seen the promotional stills for it where Beckinsale's character has got black hair in some of them, and in others, she's got white frosted tips to her hair.
Oh, and that's right.
Oh, is that the next evolution? She gets a bad dye job? Wow.
Hybrid hair.
Holy shit.
I know there's a parka thing going. I think there's like some snow shit
she's
maybe.
Got like, I think some of it is set in like the Arctic or something.
Might be. Dude, the other thing, and this is and we can end on this unless you have any other big thoughts, because this is just
one thing I wanted to bring up, but it's inconsequential to anything in particular.
Okay, well, so is mine. So actually, why don't you go
this is
first?
a good way to finish.
Lead us off. What's your final Chris Farley-esque thought?
So there's a moment in this movie when Sonia is about to get deep crispy chicken fried, just to bring that saying back again after what feels like an eternity. And they show the roof unlocking, and then they kind of pan back to their panicked faces, and then they go back to the roof unlocking, and they use a clip from the second movie when the casket was unlocking. And the only reason I noticed this was because I went on a bit of one last week, if you remember, about the casket unlocking, the mechanical, and how it looked and how the mechanics looked. It's the same fucking shot.
Dude.
They literally next generation themselves.
There's in that sequence with the ballistas. There's in the span of, dude, and I noticed this and I was not sober. So like it is very clear.
You opened your third eye.
Yes. There's a moment where they use the same shot within the span of 45 seconds, less than a minute, where it's somebody, and it's like a mid-torso shot of someone like spinning or like moving away from and they reuse it in less than a minute. It's the whole movie's like that. It's one of those, like, especially when there's action going on, a cut every 2 seconds. It's just edit. Like, whether it's them cutting around what they didn't have or trying to make shit less distractingly cheap. But that was one where I was like, this happens in movies, but usually it happens in movies that you're rewatching that are from the 70s or 80s, back when they didn't think people were going to be readily able to rewatch them necessarily, because we weren't dealing with tapes and DVDs and shit. But yeah, I picked up on it immediately. The thing I was going to say was, one, this is just a very gossipy kind of, not anything to do with the film sort of deal. But I mentioned in our first episode that when the filming commenced, if I have the timelines correct, for Underworld, the original, Kate Beckinsale and Michael Sheen were married. And then I believe the gossip, rumor, whatever, is that she had an affair with the director, Len Wiseman, who then she left Michael Sheen for not long after. Maybe they didn't have an affair. I don't remember if that was part of it. But at the very least, like, their marriage ended. She married Len Wiseman and then was with Len Wiseman for a long time, which I believe is why I don't want to say, I like Kate Beckinsale fine, but she's in the Total Recall remake that Len Wiseman made. So for a little bit, there was like a Paul W.S. Anderson, Mia Jovovich thing going on, which is hilarious. All the parallels with all these franchises. But so I was thinking about that, like, imagine being Michael Sheen in this movie where you make the first movie with your wife. She leaves you for the director. They make another one where you're not in it. Right. And then you come back for the third one where you're the star and she's not in the movie. And the like, thinking about all the dynamics of that, of like, what would that even, like, what a weird, surreal situation. Like, would you be thinking like, oh yeah, I'll make it because I don't have, like, they're not going to be involved? Or was it a thing where it was like, this is my time to shine now, but it's for this movie that, like, none of them are necessarily great? It's just very odd. Like, it's a very gossipy kind of, like, you know, nonsense filmmaking, nothing to do with the actual craft. But I thought about that a few times, of like, what a strange bit of dynamics with between all these movies and relationships.
I think they probably got split custody in the divorce.
The franchise.
Yeah, the franchise. So, like, she gets the second one, he gets the third one, and you know.
So yeah, could be.
And now that the franchise is over 18 years old, it can make its own mind up. It's
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the movies go. There's part of me that's like, let's revisit it. Make another one. Like, how would it go down now? It's not been, let's see, it's been almost 10 years. I think Blood Wars came out in 2016. Mm-hmm. So at the end of 2016. So, what would that look like? I would imagine
there's been rumors.
Have there? I haven't looked up the Underworld rumor mill.
The main reason that a sequel hasn't happened is because Beckinsale came out and said that she was kind of done with it. And then a few years later, around about lockdown time, or maybe a year after lockdown, she had a change of heart and she said that she wouldn't turn it down necessarily.
People usually do when they are doing nothing else.
Well, I mean, she's doing straight-to-video action movies now, like, Widow Black. That was the one I couldn't remember last week.
Widow Black.
Yeah. So, which, they've got their place. I enjoy a good straight-to-video action
There's always going to be dads around that need a good direct-to-video action movie.
But, I watched A Working Man with Jason Statham, which is basically a straight-to-video action movie that got a cinema release for some reason.
I saw The Beekeeper in the theater. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's carved out a niche, and I'm very happy to feather his nest in return for being able to watch that niche. It's a fun time to be had. But she's got the benefit of being easier on the eyes than Jason is. Apologies to Jason Statham fans, but he's not really my cup of tea where it comes to easy on the eye bits of crumpet.
But what a British fucking sentence.
I know, right? I can't help but be British. But yeah, it's there are rumors constantly circling, according to what I read in the last week, that there are films in the offing that are being suggested, and the main barrier for entry is whether Beckinsale is willing to come back for it. So I think ultimately, if they find a director and a script that she's willing to go along with, then we may not have seen the back of Underworld as a franchise. I don't know if it would be a cinema release, though. I think more than likely, with 10 years past, you're probably looking at it being a Amazon Prime or a Netflix service exclusive. Yeah.
Maybe it's time for, I don't know if it would be, I don't know. The other weird thing is it's like, has enough time passed for it to be this thing that I'm about to say? But then there's also part of me that's like, well, they're supposed to be immortal. Like, so it's not like they're supposed to have aged. But I was going to say, no, like a legacy sequel to where it's like bring in a new cast and then Celine is like, not necessarily the victor role, but
could do. I mean, she's, I don't know where the films go, but I would assume that the idea of her having some kind of offspring wouldn't be off the table. So
she has one in the next movie.
Okay, well there you go then. Unless it dies, which movies are a bit fast and loose with those kind of things.
Michael and her have a daughter, and that's the one I was telling you about in one past episode where they just kind of ignore Michael, like she's on the run with the daughter, and then they have him somewhere. Yeah. Like there's a shot of him in like a security camera footage, and I think they like use another actor and superimpose his face. I remember it looking weird at the time.
These things often do, especially like in the older films where they didn't have that technology down pat particularly. A legacy sequel could definitely work. You might have to. The problem is, unless they find some way of being like, oh, she aged prematurely because of this. There are so many things that they can do in camera now, and also post-production to make people look like a younger version of themselves, that they could quite easily do something like that. But if she's coming back for a film, I think she's coming back to be the star, not to be handing off to somebody else. But I don't know. I see what comes up and what happens, and maybe there'll be more, maybe there won't. But regardless, we've got another 2 movies that we can talk about.
2, yep. Yeah. Underworld Awakening from 2012.
And then Blood Wars.
Blood Wars, yeah. Which, dude, I forgot last night. I was looking at the box office budget shit again. And because Sean was like, how much did this movie cost compared to the other ones, et cetera? I forgot that there is a massive jump. So just a quick recap budgets. First one, $22 million. Second, $45 million. Third one, which we just talked about, $35 million. So it went down $10 million. Underworld Awakening cost $70 million. It doubled the budget of, and almost over tripled the budget of the original one. Like, I don't know why they got that. I don't know, because it may be an inflation thing, but it was only 3 years later, and then made 160. So didn't do great, but not horrible.
It didn't even double its budget compared to this one, which was almost triple, but not quite.
And then Blood Wars, they halved it again. So Awakening cost $70 million, and then Blood Wars went down to 35, but made 81.
Far be it from me to bring up Star Trek in an episode of a horror podcast like I have 3 times already today. But that was a problem that Star Trek had with the original cast motion pictures through the years. They would constantly yo-yo between big budget and shoestring budget. And sometimes the films made it work, like Star Trek 4, The Journey Home, I think. And sometimes it would absolutely tank like Star Trek 5. I called it Star Wars. I did, didn't I? Star Trek 5 was a really low budget, but also had the problem that they had William Shatner directing it, and it wasn't a case of Journey Home where they basically took the cast and just had them in modern day San Francisco. They actually had it set in space and shit, and it didn't really work for them at all. But there were some high budget ones, like the original Star Trek was a massive, massive budget, and it didn't really work out for them. Number 2, which is the critical darling of the Star Trek movies, Wrath of Khan. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, the budget for that one was a lot lower because of the amount of investment they put in the original one, the fact that they weren't sure that Star Trek was a goer as far as motion pictures were concerned. And then they just absolutely blew the doors off at the box office and with the critical response for the second one. And then, it went a bit wonky after that, partially with budgets, partially because Industrial Light and Magic weren't available to do all of the special effects for all of the movies. So you had some movies like the 5th one where the special effects were pretty ropey looking. Mm-hmm. But you see it in franchises. Sometimes the budget just isn't there for whatever reason. Maybe the previous one just didn't do well, so they cut the budget for the next one. Other studios have probably got this almost like, a gambler who's chasing their losses. And they're like, well, I lost $10 on that bet, so I'll bet 20 on the next one to get it back. Oh, I lost again. I better bet 40 on the next one to make back all of my money. It's kind of like that mentality, where they're like, well, the last one didn't do too great. What was wrong with it? Well, clearly we didn't have enough money in it. Okay, well, let's up the budget. That's all I can think. I don't know if there's any credence in that theory, but that's what sprung into my head. And as we all know on this podcast, if something appears in my head, I have to say it.
No, I mean, it sounds pretty solid to me. It's kind of just a bewildering thing that all of these franchises exist at all in a lot of ways because of the push and pull of the budgets and the box office. They never do well critically, but they get fans. And I haven't looked up the stuff for Twilight. I would imagine that's a place that the Venn diagram does differ. I think those movies made a lot more money. I think they were like, phenomenon, worldwide kind of things. And these movies, very much less so. But
you can afford to be savaged by the critics as long as the fans are happy to pay and put their bums in the seats.
If people are going to go, then it doesn't matter. So, all right, let's be done. Do you have any other thoughts on these movies or on this movie?
No, I've exhausted my pool of sentient thoughts regarding this movie.
Yeah, me too. Listeners, if you watched this, first off, may God have mercy on your soul. Second off, if you want to send us some longer form thoughts, feel free to do so. EerieInternational@gmail.com. Next week, assuming Andy is back, we will talk about, mercifully, something different. But if not, we will be back with Underworld Awakening. If not next week, then at some point. But these are probably now at this point the two I'm most excited to watch because I've only seen Awakening once, and it's back with Celine and the world moving forward, the world of the modern vampire Lycan war, and then Blood Wars haven't really seen it all. I want to say that when I bought I don't even call it a box set, it was just like a collection of the movies. I maybe watched a little bit of the beginning because I vaguely remember Theo James, but clearly it didn't captivate me enough to finish it, so it might not be a great sign. But we'll see. I remember he had a crossbow. That's usually with these movies. It's like, oh, isn't it the first one where she like shoots a hole in the floor and falls through it? Like they're not character or whatever moments. It's just things like that. This guy had a crossbow, so that was my main takeaway. But if you did have thoughts on them, feel free to send us in thoughts, social media, whatever else. In the meantime, be safe out there. Keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.
Good boo.